In our last episode, we made it all the way north into the mighty Bay of LA, a place we've wanted to get to for years. This time around, Brenda digs into her secret stash, and we get hit with our first and hopefully last elefante. Well, there goes Isla Ventana right behind us, and now we're heading to Isla Mitlan. It's only a couple of miles away. It's so close that I'm not even bothered trying to sail. It'll take me longer to even get the sail cover off and the mainsail up than it will be for us to just get there. So, we're motoring. Something I usually don't like to do. Brenda's trying to catch us some fish, just like always, and it's another gorgeous day. It's amazingly pleasant up here. I figured we'd be blown out by heat already, but it's pretty nice. The water's still cool, which really helps. It's warming up. It's to 80 degrees now. This pleasantly cool might be over soon, but until it's gone, pretty nice up here. Oh, you got seaweed, not a fish? With nothing but seaweed on those lines, our short bit of motoring to the next anchorage north would provide us with 0 fresh fish for dinner tonight. But that short bit of motoring, it would bring us to this place. Tucked in a little nook between 2 islands, this spot would quickly become another one of our favorites. With great fishing and snorkeling and tons of nooks and crannies to explore, this little spot would keep us entertained and be home sweet home for a few days. Well, we made it to Isla Mitlan. This is another pretty amazing spot. We've already been out swimming and fishing and exploring. It's awesome. But we're actually tucked in a little narrow slot between Isla Mitlan and Isla Coronado, which is right over here. And on that island, Isla Coronado, there's a big, huge volcano that's pretty awesome to look at. We actually thought we'd climb to the top, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It looks a little sketchy. It's straight up over some pretty scraggly rock. So we may be admiring from down below. But the Bay of LA as a whole, I actually wanted to talk about for a little while, so bear with me. This will be a long story. If you watched from the beginning of this season, you probably know we started it on the border of Guatemala and Mexico, all the way down south in Mexico. It was a long ways away. We were heading for Central America, and we turned around. There was a whole lot of reasons for it. One, the boat was kind of in shambles. It's easier to get parts and supplies and do work farther north than it is farther south. That was a big thing. We had a bunch of friends that were in Mexico. We wanted to see them. My old friend Ken, that was actually a big part of my decision because, well, I wanted to see him. And for me, cruising around with Ken for a few months was kind of amazing, really. Ken, it was great. Kind of a highlight of the year for me. But also, one of the big things was the Bay of LA. We've heard about this place from a lot of our sailing friends that have come up here for years and said it's one of the best spots to cruise in Mexico, and we'd never seen it. So, I think for both of us, we would have been kind of bummed out if we skipped it before we left Mexico. Because odds are, once we leave, we probably won't come back. You never know, though. But odds are, once we're gone, we're gone. So it seemed like kind of a disservice to us and our big adventure to skip the Bay of LA. So all those things combined, it brought us back up here, and now we're here. And it's incredible! I'm pretty happy we came up. But even beyond all that, I will say this has probably been one of our best years of traveling so far. We've been doing it for 5 years full time, a little over 5 years, but I don't know if we just found a rhythm. I don't know. It really just seems like one of the best years we've had. Pretty incredible.
But as great as this little spot was, there was some funny clouds showing up on the horizon. So after a few days of some pretty carefree living, it was time to check the weather.
We're going to get weather today. We haven't gotten weather in about 4 or 5 days, so it's probably a good idea. The Elefante is blowing this area, so we need to know if we need to move or if we can stay here. We have a single sideband with a Pactor 4 modem, and that's how we get weather. The other option that a lot of cruisers are using now is the Iridium Go, which is probably a bit more efficient. No, that's not actually true. Let me scratch that. It's probably a little bit easier to navigate, but we had already put in a single sideband before the Iridium Go was even offered on the market, so that's what we have.
Season mix 12. Remainder of area winds 20 knots or less. Valid at 2045 coordinated universal time Friday, June 28, 14 west. IT standard strong convection from 04 north to 11 north eastward of the waves. Individual waves may be more than twice the significant.
Right now I'm listening to U.S. Coast Guard weather prediction and trying to get the single sideband weather from NOAA.
Monday.
There's a hurricane developing.
Seas 3 to 4 feet. Monday night.
So, we don't want to be in it.
5 to 15 knots.
We love adventure, but not that kind of adventure.
Tuesday will remain nearly stationary tonight through Saturday night. And will weaken into a...
Should I give them a tutorial about my shell? So, one thing that's really important while you're sailing in Mexico is to collect shells on the beach because they really have the coolest shells ever. And so I've got a supply going. Jeff, by the way, he hates junk on the boat. He hates nothing that when something's on the boat that has nothing to do with sailing. It drives him crazy. I think it's because it weights down the boat and he has this belief that it weights down the boat in some way and then it makes us slower. So having these shells, I actually hide them as I'm collecting them. So I collected some more today. So I have this little bag. It's really not that bad. Not that big, but the shells are big and it's kind of heavy. But I don't really think it's slowing us down. And then I got these new shells today up here in the Bay of LA. Little guy. If you're coming down to Mexico, I would absolutely recommend that you stop along the outside of the Baja because they have the biggest shells. Look at this. Look at this craziness. The biggest shells. The shells, honestly, the shells that I found that were the largest were on the outside of the Baja. This is a sea urchin without all of its little spikes. Rocks. Rocks are important too. I collect those as well. I think in a previous life I was a geologist because I collect them everywhere, which actually might be slowing down the boat. I'll give Jeff that. It might be slowing the boat down, me collecting the rocks. But they're so cool. So now that I've shared this with you, don't tell Jeff about my stash. Don't tell him about my rocks, and don't tell him about my shells. Thanks. I'd appreciate it. He's gonna worry it's slowing the boat down. I mean, he has that stripe and everything, but...
Even with the big old pile of rocks and shells that are definitely slowing our mighty racing boat down, and a clean and clear forecast that called for nothing but calm and pleasant weather, right as the sun went down, we pulled up the anchor and we left this little nook, because something big was definitely coming this way.
I gotta say, I love elephants, but not elefantes. And we're experiencing our first one. It's gusting up into the 40s, but those gusts are packing 100-degree wind. It's crazy, and it's hot. There's not much to show you outside because it's pitch black, but I can tell you it's gonna be a long, uncomfortable night. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
From that little nook, under dark skies and 40-plus knots of 100-degree-plus winds, we sailed our way back to the village of the Bay of L.A., where we hoped to find a little better west wind protection.
Well, that was a pretty rough night. I think maybe in another episode or so we'll cover elefantes. But I can tell you for a fact, it wasn't very fun. Yesterday afternoon, we were at Isla Mitlan, which we had a couple of really nice nights there. But there were some strange clouds and hot breeze coming up over the mountains that just didn't seem right. So yesterday, Brenda pulled weather. The weather forecast looked great. There was a light breeze forecasted, and that was it. So at that anchorage we were at Isla Mitlan, all of a sudden, just before sunset, we started getting this funny chop coming into the anchorage and some funny breeze that was coming in at a weird angle. And it just didn't seem like a great spot to spend the night if we were going to get hit with one of these things. This is the first time we've been in this area, so we haven't experienced one before, but we've read they're kind of brutal, or they can be kind of brutal. So we did what we normally don't like to do. We picked up the anchor right as the sun was going down and went to a different anchorage, which is where we are here, and got here well after dark. But coming here, it was a 102-degree breeze blowing at 40-plus knots. It's like we were inside of a hairdryer. It was brutal and uncomfortable. So we came here, dropped the hook, and sort of got hammered all night with 40-plus knots until about 4 in the morning. Everything stopped. It just shut off like a switch. But the heat didn't leave, because right now it is hot. It is cooking. It's brutal. So brutal, Brenda's actually putting the swimming pool out in the cockpit. And really, if you got a boat, you should have a swimming pool. And you may be thinking, why don't we just go swimming in the ocean? That's a good question. Normally, that's what we do, at least in the daytime. But at night, the ocean is scary. That's when all the big stuff comes out. So, swimming pool in the cockpit. We can go hang out in there, cool off. And that's that. So we're kind of thinking tonight maybe another night like last night. So we're going to stay put here at the village of Bay of LA. We're anchored right up to shore. So there's no fetch. We'll get blown around a bit, but it'll at least be comfortable. Noisy, but comfortable. So we're going to hang out here, and then realistically tomorrow depending on weather, we'll go somewhere else.
Since we were going to be living inside of a hairdryer for the next 24 hours or so, finding creative ways to cool off would be a necessity. And to this day, Brenda still claims the best $5 we ever spent was this little inflatable kiddie pool. But between soakings and cursing the heat, at least there was some entertainment on shore. Because on this day, some of the best fishermen in all of Mexico were in town for one of the biggest sport fishing tournaments in the sea. And they were showing us that we needed to get out and fish a little harder.
Yo voy a cantar esta canción, yo voy a cantar esta canción para mi gente. Con una pasión tan fuerte. Yo sigo cantando y sigo gozando.
With these big old whoppers staring us right in the face, and the fact that these things were coming out of the sea right from where our little floating home resides, Brenda would soon be going fishing nuts. But that's a story for next time. Thanks for watching, and join us in our next episode as we push even farther north into the Sea of Cortez and parts unknown.